If I read one more tweet, Coca, or one more article about Juan Soto and the problems he's having as a Met, I will, I don't know what I'll do. What am I going to do? Yell and scream at the top of my lungs or talk about it on Nothing Personal? I guess I'm going to talk about it on Nothing Personal. Juan Soto is HO triple T, and he's having a first season with the Mets that is in many ways historic. He homered again last night. It's his fifth home run in 5 games. He has 37 homers, 91 runs batted in, and 27 stolen bases. He never has run like this. His career high was 12 going into this season. He has more walks than anyone in Major League Baseball. He's third in on base, 13th in slugging, 6th in OPS in the entire league. Can you imagine if the down season that you're all complaining he's having, he ends up with 40 home runs and 100 or more runs batted in and then steals 30 or more bags? How is that not the MVP of the league? Well, because of Ohtani and maybe Schwarber. Who would you rather have, Soto or Schwarber, on your team? Just asking. Well, for any executive, given the choice, Soto, Schwarber. And I'm including clubhouse chemistry. I'm including that everybody is taking Soto. Every single baseball executive would rather have Juan Soto on his team than Kyle Schwarber. Just like every single executive would rather have Shohei Ohtani than Juan Soto or Kyle Schwarber. If that's how you do your MVP voting, then that would be a good indication of how the MVP vote should be. But in what has become a two-person race between Schwarber and Ohtani, how is Juan Soto not even in the conversation? He has to be. Do you know how many players are having the type of season that Juan Soto is having for the Mets in baseball this century? 0. The only time it's ever happened, if he ends up with 40 homers, 30 steals, 100 ribbies, 100 runs, and 100 walks, which he is going to get. Barry Bonds and Jeff Bagwell. Barry Bonds and Jeff Bagwell. That's it. 2 players. Now, the reason why there's so much attention on Juan Soto, Coca, is that the Mets have been having a hard time winning. When you're 13-17 over your last 30, when you have given up a lead to Philadelphia that is seemingly insurmountable, everything tends to be tarnished. The fact of the matter is, what should be tarnished on the Mets is their starting pitching. The importance of starting pitching, the importance of bullpen performance. That is way more responsible for the reality of what the Mets find themselves in right now. So what do you do if you're the Mets? Well, we had this issue with the Marlins when we had some bad PR for a player's season because the team was not producing. In 2017, we had the MVP of baseball on our team. His name was Giancarlo Stanton. And we had to make sure the writers understood, the public understood. Do not misunderstand what the message here. The message here is that Giancarlo Stanton is the best player in baseball. The reality is he plays for a team that can't win 81 games because we couldn't put together a pitching staff. We couldn't figure out how to get Stanton, Yelich, and Ozuna and JT Realmuto to club enough runs, score enough runs in order to win more than 81 games. But it does not take away from who the most valuable player is. And I feel like people are ignoring the fact because Senga and Minaya are so bad. So bad. They're so bad, Coca. They're so bad that the Mets could end up skipping their turn in the rotation in September in order to make sure that McClain and Tong get the starts on regular rest. If I'm David Stearns, I do not suggest that as a course of action. Side note, if you can give the rookies an extra day, you are counting on them in October you are going to need McLean Anton. You're going to need him to start games because the Mets can't forget 4 starters for a 7-game series. Forget 3 starters. Find me 2 that would put the fear of anybody in the playoffs. Can you imagine you got to play the Dodgers in first round, best 2 out of 3 in LA, and you're going out with Senga, Holmes, and Minaya? Good night, good afternoon, good morning. To me, you got to look at what McLean's doing. He pitched last night, Coca. I saw that he and Fernando Valenzuela are like the only 2 rookies ever to have the type of starts that McLean has, winning your first 4 games with an ERA under 1.5 with over 25 Ks in 4 starts. That's even Jose Fernandez and Dontrell Willis didn't do that. Only Fernando Valenzuela of the Dodgers and Nolan McLean of the Mets have had that sort of start where it's winning time for your team. You think McLean is not going to start a playoff game? So the reality is you got to make sure, give him the extra day when you can. And having it leaked out there, or the thought that you would skip Senga and Minaya now, I want Senga and Minaya to have as much confidence as possible because I'm going to need him at some point in the playoffs. One of them, I'm going to need him to do something, even if it's 3 innings of relief, even if it's starting a game 3 or a game 4, I need something. I don't want to skip their turn in the rotation unless I absolutely have to, and the Mets absolutely don't have to skip it. We had a very simple rule. Skipping a player in the rotation, you have to call the pitcher into the manager's office, have the talk with them, and it hurts. It doesn't hurt as much as a demotion to the minor leagues or an outright release, but when you skip a pitcher in the rotation, picture yourself in middle school when you were last in the batting order for the game of baseball during recess, and somehow recess ended before you ever got a turn to be at bat. Or when you did go to at bat and everyone would say, infield in, outfield in, it's Samson. I mean, that didn't happen to me. Or maybe it did. You think that doesn't have an impact? Of course it does, Dr. Freud. So you got to be very super careful if you're the Mets. So this rumor out, Coca, I don't know that it's been officially done or the conversation's had, but even with the leak, even with the mention in the media that Senga Minaya veterans could be skipped, you still have to have a meeting. God, did I used to hate Coca having to meet with players because something came out in the newspaper even that I had nothing to do with. I was more than happy to have meetings with the players when I leaked something to the paper, when I wanted the word out that something was going to happen. And then I could have deniability saying, I don't know how that got in the paper, man. So sorry. But yeah, it happens to be true. So we'll see what happens with the Mets. We'll see what happens with Senga Minaya. But for now, give your love to McLean. And for crying out loud, recognize the season that Juan Soto's having and stop with the nonsense of his being a failure or disappointment this year.